Hot topics and current issues facing the NHS. Why do they ask you this question? Well, really, they just want to test your knowledge on how much you've read and also want to see your critical thinking skills. And it is an important question because medical schools, they want someone who has an insight into the challenging realities of working in the NHS, and also someone who's done their reading into the NHS and thereby showing their commitment to studying medicine. What are some examples of hot topics? Well, the current issues facing the NHS are Brexit, coronavirus, and vaccinations, the aging population, AI in medicine, lack of organ donors maybe, and there's some more that you can find on the Medic portal and other websites. I'm praying coronavirus is still not a problem in 2022, but just in case. Now let's get on to the juicy bit. How are you going to structure your answer when you're asked about a current hot topic or a challenging issue facing the NHS? The first thing you want to do is just quickly give a background to what you're talking about. What is the actual problem? For example, if they ask about the lack of organ donors in the UK, first quickly define what organ transplantation is and give the UK's current position on it. Don't spend too long with the definition and the legislation regarding to what you're talking about. It should just be 1 or 2 quick sentences. This is going to let the interviewer know that you know what you're talking about, and it'll help with your answer and your confidence. So using the example of a current issue like lack of organ donors, well, you define organ transplantation as is when doctors remove an organ from another person, the organ donor, and place it in the body of the recipient, the person who's receiving that organ. I don't have to read that. I know the definition off by heart. I'm a third year medical student, so And then you'd say, currently in the UK, we have an opt-out system, meaning everyone's assumed to be an organ donor, and if you don't want to organ your donation, you have to actively take yourself off the organ donation list. And what is the actual problem? Well, the problem is that the demand for organs from patients waiting on the waiting list far outweighs the supply of organs from potential organ donors. Impact of the current issue. Why is this current issue, why is this hot topic a problem? Some of the different negative impacts that you can use in your answer are stuff like the quality of patient care is decreased or affected by this current issue. This current issue goes against one of the principles of medical ethics, such as beneficence, autonomy, non-maleficence, or justice. This poses an economical burden, a wastefulness of resources, leads to the care provided to patients and the general public being inefficient. Therefore, you could argue that the quality of care is decreased. Now, when talking about the impact of the current issue or the hot topic, this is the perfect opportunity for you to include facts and statistics in your answer. This goes back to why they're asking you this question. Remember, they're asking this question because they want to know how much you've read about the NHS and the current issues. Including facts and statistics that you read from articles about this current issue is going to prove that and is going to impress the interviewer. So again, using the lack of organ donations as an example, well, the lack of organ donations results in many patients waiting for life-saving treatment and surgery on the waiting list. As a result of the lack of organ donations, these patients sometimes have to wait long periods of time without their life-saving treatment, and therefore you could argue that the quality of treatment, the quality of care that they're receiving is not good enough. Many patients die on the waiting list, so according to the State of Health, 233 people waiting for a kidney transplant died in 2019 to 2020. This then poses a problem on the principles of medical ethics, such as beneficence, that we have to care for our patients, and non-maleficence, that, making these patients wait for their life-saving treatment, you could argue that they're causing them harm. Not only that, but due to the shortage of organ donors, doctors are sometimes forced to make clinical decisions on who receives the limited amount of organ donors. So some people, they have to make decisions on which patients receive the life-saving surgeries. This creates ethical dilemmas for doctors, and you could argue that it goes against justice, treating all patients the same, as there are going to be some patients who won't receive the treatment. There's also an economic burden produced by the shortage of organ donors. The patients waiting for organ donations on the waiting list are often given alternative treatments to maintain as much quality of life as they can. For example, for patients waiting for a liver transplant, they might receive dialysis, and this can be very expensive and it uses a lot of resources such as hospital space, time, and just resources from the medication. With increased organ donors, if the supply of organ donors met the demand, then these expenses could be avoided, and therefore with the money saved from not having to give all these alternative treatments, we could then spend on funding different areas, for example, funding psychiatry and scientific research into new medicines. Then it's a good idea to talk about why this problem actually exists. This goes back to, again, why are they asking this question? Well, by talking about why the problem exists, you're going to show that you've done your reading into the challenges that face the NHS. Therefore, you're committed to learning and studying medicine. But also, this is going to be an opportunity for you to show off your critical thinking skills. So using the example of lack of organ donations, one reason why there might be a shortage of organ donations is due to religious beliefs. The UK is a very multicultural and diverse society where we have people from all different faiths and all different cultures and traditions. Some of these faiths and traditions might disagree with the concept and the act of organ transplantation, and in those cases where people opt out for organ transplantation, we would have to respect their faith or their culture. Another reason why there might be a shortage of organ donations is a lack of education or misconceptions. This lack of education then results in fear and therefore might sway people or persuade people to opt out from organ donations. For example, people might believe when they donate their organs when they die that they're very messy with the surgery, that they just don't care about the preservation of the body, that they make very harsh cuts. So these misconceptions might result in people not wanting to donate their organs or their family members donating their organs. And another reason for the problem for shortage of organ donations is perhaps the compatibility of the organs. Even if we have a large quantity of organ donors, we still have to think about the compatibility and the quality of the organs that are being donated. We have to pick the right organ for that recipient so that the recipient's body doesn't reject the organ donor. Obtaining a compatible organ might be very hard for some patients on the waiting list, and it might be that rather than the actual quantity of organs that's resulting in them on having to wait long periods of time on that waiting list. And then finally, you want to talk about possible solutions. The interviewer might actually interrupt you and ask you, well, okay, so what do you think can be a solution to this problem that faces the NHS today? When talking about possible solutions, if relevant, you can always talk about health promotion. So health promotion consists of health education, health protection, which is safeguarding the population through legislative, financial, or social measures, and disease prevention. So if we were going to implement this idea in our current answer that we're doing, for health education, well, one of the possible solutions to the shortage of organ donations is that we educate people, that we fund public health campaigns and perhaps release PSA adverts on the TV, clearing up the misconceptions and educating people so they're not so fearful of donating their organs. We can also educate people through funding charities that help to raise awareness for the need of organ donors. And then for health protection, already the UK has become an opt-out system, and I think that was since May 2020. And then it would be a good opportunity to perhaps include some studies here on how turning to an opt-out system can increase the organ donations and therefore decrease the waiting times for organs. And then disease prevention. This is something really good to talk about because actually the long-term solution would be to help to prevent diseases. A lot of these people who are needing new organs are people who have led their whole life with unhealthy lifestyle habits such as smoking, their bad diet, lack of exercise, drugs, alcohol. If we actually act to try and prevent these unhealthy lifestyle habits such as raising awareness against smoking, or try to encourage people to stop drinking as much, then we would hope in the long term that less people will need an organ transplant and therefore the supply of organ donations will then meet the now lower demand. And then I'll talk about alternative treatments. For example, people needing a heart transplant, they might be okay with getting an artificial heart or a pacemaker, and then this will regain their quality of life afterwards. And possible future treatments is 3D printed stem cell organ transplantation, where they print the scaffolding of that organ using a 3D printer and then use stem cells from the patient needing the organ transplant to then grow yourself that organ, meaning that it will be perfectly compatible with that patient because it's got the same DNA, so no chance of rejection. Therefore, in that case, you wouldn't even need an organ donor, you just need that patient's stem cells, which would be absolutely amazing. Mad. So just to summarize how you would structure your answer when talking about a current issue facing the NHS. First, just start with the backgrounds, like what the problem actually is. Include a definition and some law by the UK if it's relevant. Then talk about the impact of that current issue. That's so important. Why is it a problem? Does it decrease the quality of care? Does it go against one of the principles of medical ethics? Is it an economic burden? Go into what its actual impact is on the NHS. Then talk about possible solutions, what you think we could do as people or the government can do to help solve this problem or try to mitigate the negative effects of a current issue facing the NHS. If you guys are interested in receiving feedback for your answers through one-to-one tutoring and extra help with structuring your answers to all the different questions they could ask for your interview, then contact me through Instagram, which by the way, you should be following. It'll be somewhere on the screen. Or if you don't have Instagram, then drop me an email and I'll include my email in the description. I can do 1 hour, 1.5 hours, or 2-hour lessons. And currently this year, I'm charging £15 per hour, which is very affordable compared to what other people are charging. I've also got feedback from past students down below in the description, so check that out as well if you're unsure. Okay, that's me done. Okay, go away.